was a gentleman in Florida that was a student of ours that he worked with, and he shared with me that in his second marriage, he was noticing some of the patterns that were going on in his earlier marriage, and he was realizing and ready to do another level of work. So he decided to register for the self-study Codependence to Interdependence Intensive. And we actually just got his scores back from his personal code evaluation. And I'm sharing this to speak about the value of long-term work. And I don't know how many people I've gone through their personal code evaluations, probably, I don't know, 1,000 or more people. And this is the first time I've had someone that's been engaged in the work that long, although not really close to it over a time period in the early days, but realized that you need to come back and do some more work. But his personal code evaluation scores, literally, it's not unusual. You know, the personal code evaluation, we've shared a little bit about it before. It's a psychological evaluation based on the MMPI, Minnesota Multi-Phasic Personality Inventory. It's kind of the gold standard of psychological testing. And we ferreted out 10 different areas from that evaluation, or to perform this evaluation, that tells people where their minds are at in terms of 10 different areas of their lives. You know, whether their problem is stress management or honoring self, honoring others, honoring truth, fear, hostility, honoring laws of living, nutrition, use of will, you know, each of these areas. And you know, rather when somebody comes into a workshop, rather than saying, oh, well, maybe you should do this, or them saying, oh, I think I need to do that, which the mind is the great trickster, this pins it right down to here are the arenas in which you have work to do. But in, you know, probably well over 1,000 evaluations over the last probably 43 or 44 years since we started using that evaluation. And my observation, it's got to be at least 98% accurate. But I've never seen anybody with beginning scores like this gentleman's. You know, each of the 10 scales are from 1 to 100, and it's pretty normal for somebody to come to an intensive their first time, and their scores in, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 areas are in the range of, you know, 12 to 22, 34. I mean, real crisis stuff. And this gentleman, having been engaged long term, the starting point, his lowest score was up in the upper third. You know, 72 being the upper third. Several of his scores were there, and the rest were higher. I've never seen it before. So it's kind of a nice confirmation of the fact that healing happens, and it's a long-term project. You know, we're not done at any given point where we'd like to say, okay, well, I'm finished now. It is a process, and you know, I strongly recognize, you know, for myself, as I shared with that healing crisis I had back just how long ago was that? 3 weeks now, 4 weeks ago. I mean, 2 weeks, and I was in pretty severe trauma for 2 weeks. And now we're, from where, you know, the trauma aspect of it ended, we're a week and a half away from that, and I just shoveled, I don't know, 3 or 4 tons of soil. So it just speaks of the healing process. And of course, that when we step into a healing process, the symptoms are going to be there. It's not Dr. Feelgood, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people run away from healing. It's because they don't want to feel, they don't want to deal with what's in there. They'd rather take a pill, they'd rather hide it from themselves. Actually, we just put a new video up. I watched it this morning. I don't know if Michael Teddy might happen to be listening, but he had caught it. It was one that was on our old website and had gotten lost, and it was discovered just a couple of weeks ago, and Michael had watched it. I wasn't even aware that it had been found and put back on our YouTube channel. And it's an interview with another physician that I did in Springfield, Missouri, back about, I think it was maybe 2011, something like that. In any event, I watched that interview this morning. Michael, Teddy had some questions on it, and so I watched it this morning, finally got caught up. And it was an interview with a fellow named Dr. David Tribus, a physician in Springfield, Missouri. And we were doing a conference there. And it just really speaks about, I was kind of delighted to watch it, and it's kind of, some of the things that were the refined points, and were, I didn't realize I knew that or understood that back that long ago. In any event, it's a good watch. If you go to our YouTube channel, it's Dr. Michael Tribus, and it was an interview he did for a conference we were both speaking at. He was a keynote speaker on one evening of the conference, and I on the second evening. So there are always more resources going up and coming into place, but recognizing that this process of healing is clearly not always Dr. Feelgood until you get out the other side of it. And then it's just, I mean, literally for a period of 2 weeks, I had difficulty swinging my legs off the bed to stand up. And 2 weeks later, solid as a rock. And so we just open space and are here to offer support and bring forward this process of first century Aramaic forgiveness, which, interestingly enough, in all the 50 plus years of research and doing the work that I'm doing, there are only 2 places on planet Earth that I have found give you exact and specific directions on how to forgive. And that forgiveness isn't about anything to do with what most of churchianity teaches us, is that I'm supposed to let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me. Basically that's the brainwash virtually everybody has been caught in. And I caution people, never ever forgive anybody. The person who I invite to the workshop and says, I don't need that, I've already forgiven everybody, my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, my aunts, my uncles, my wife, my former wife, I've even forgiven my future wives. When somebody tells me that, I know they've done no forgiveness work yet. Absolutely zero. If you are, and when I bring this up to people when they talk about, I forgave them, well, I really meant. No, you didn't. You said what you meant. Your words always tell you what you mean. And if you think you can forgive somebody, if you're still talking about forgiving somebody, if you're still reading books about how you should forgive them, throw it all away and never forgive anybody. But forgive continuously. Now, when I say never forgive anybody, people say, I thought your work was about forgiveness. It is, but it's not about letting other people off the hook. It's about how you go inside yourself. You listen to Yeshua 2,000 years ago. You must forgive from your heart the wrongs of your brother. Heart in that context is a place. It is not a bleeding heart statement. The word forgive meaning remove. You must remove from your heart, from your unconscious. It's just several decades ago that Freud rediscovered the unconscious. The whole idea of it's been lost for thousands of years. But if you go back into the scriptures, there were a couple of different words that were used to represent the unconscious. One of them was the heart. Take care of the heart, the unconscious, for out of it are the issues in life. That quote I shared yesterday from Carl Jung. What you refuse to deal with in yourself, you will hide within yourself, and then you'll meet it in 1,000 disguises with 1,000 different people, because you'll take what's in your heart, your unconscious, and you'll build a whole structure in your mind that you'll think is about other people, because they're pictures of other people, but the pictures are made up of the content of your own mind. So when Yeshua says you must forgive from your heart, he's saying you have to go into your own unconscious, and whatever trauma is there that your brother has resonated in you and you've used to build your brain's image of them, you've got to remove it from your heart, which also means from your physiology, because that unconscious, every cell in the structure, stores information. Where we store trauma, where we store disintegrative information, we've got disintegrating tissue, because literally that energy becomes what we call the chemistry of the cell. And relative to the chemistry of the cell, so-called chemistry. They're two qualities of energy. What builds it up? What tears it down? You put hate, fear, anger, rage, guilt, grief, condemnation, gossip, slander, vengeance into a cell, and you begin the destruction of your own body. And then if you live in denial, you're talking about how it's their fault, you're trying to prove it's them, then through that denial, you'll dissociate with what you need to heal. You'll hide it more deeply. You'll create an even deeper state of unconsciousness, and then out of your unconscious will come a picture. And if Bill is the object of your attention right now, you'll have a very solid, very detailed hologram in your mind of how Bill is the problem in your life. But you'll notice that every time Bill or whoever it was, last time it was Harry and before that it was Hortense, you'll notice whoever it was you were blaming, you were the one with the physical pain. When do you stop kidding yourself that anybody else can cause pain in you? When do you start to stop and go, and I say start to stop. I mean, begin to stop in the middle of the sentence when you're ready to prove that somebody else is the problem in your life, and the only reason you're in pain is because of them, and if they just change, everything would be fine. Stop in the middle of that sentence and go, this is my mental illness. I'm taking what's going on in my physiology. How do I tell it's going on in my physiology? I'm feeling it in my physiology, and I'm making pictures of other people out of it. It's called mental illness, folks. And just about our whole culture is caught in this mental illness of blame. So there are only two places that I found the technology for how do you open the veil, what in the ancient teachings was called the veil of the temple. How do you open this barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious mind? Once you've lived in denial, once you think or speak, and this is denial, that somebody outside of you is the cause of what's moving inside of you. Once you think that way, you just dissociated from the cause of your pain. You've just hidden it and created this unnatural condition called an unconscious mind. And then out of your unconscious will come a picture of Harry. Harry's the problem. And Yeshua would say, you must forgive from your unconscious that pained, traumatic energy that you're holding in your cells that's killing your cells and you're using to build your brain's image of Harry. You've got to remove that from your heart, from your unconscious. All of the old causes of pain within the mind have to be owned and forgiven. So when you stop, when you're in the middle of the sentence and you stop and you go, oh, wait a minute. Here I am feeling something I don't want to own. I'm blaming them. It's time for me to be mid-sentence, halt, and forgive. Collapse the lie that it's about Harry. Stand in a space of willingness to own it, because after all, you've been through it too many times. And you're watching your physiology deteriorate as you blame everybody else. And your deterioration has nothing to do with aging. People say, well, I'm just getting old, that's it. No, you're not. You're getting deeper into denial. The deeper you go into denial, the deeper your physiology reflects the trauma of what it is that you're refusing to deal with. And there are two places on the planet that show me or have shown me where I have found exact and specific instructions for how to access that unconscious data. One of them is the first century Aramaic words of Yeshua 2,000 years ago. And then, A Course in Miracles, purportedly written by Yeshua. People go, oh, no, that couldn't happen. Well, whether you think it could or it couldn't, the technology's there exactly as it is in the Aramaic. The exact instructions for how to do it are there. And for me, that's a standard of, I know who wrote this because nobody else on the planet knows this. Nowhere can you go on planet Earth, at least that I know of. Now, there might be somewhere else. There might be somebody else that I haven't discovered. But if you know them, if you know somebody that knows how to forgive, if you've got somebody you think knows how to forgive, I want to hear about it if it's different than this technology, because here's what it'll offer. It doesn't work. The beauty of this technology that was developed 2,000 years ago and reflected again in the Course is you don't even have to believe it. All you have to do is put the pen to the paper and use it, and your whole unconscious will change, which means your physiology will change, which means the perceptual constructs of your mind will change, which means your relationships will change, your finances will change, your level of joy and aliveness will change, your health will change, your digestion will change, your breathing will change, the function of your brain will change. You don't have to believe a thing. Here, take the worksheet, put the pen and paper, do it for 6 months, and then come back and tell me. We'll do an evaluation on you now to show you exactly what's going on in your mind. And then 6 months from now, if you use the tool, and I hesitate to use the word religiously because sadly, the religions have been the destroyers of forgiveness on planet Earth. Traditionally, historically, they've turned it into pardoning rather than forgiveness. But if you use the tool regularly, 6 months from now, you won't know you're living in the same world. It just works. That's the beauty of it. And when you work it, it's not always got to feel good. It means you get to feel, you get to deal, you get to work through what maybe your parents or your grandparents or their parents or their parents or theirs before them refused to work through and passed along, and you became the inheritor of. You recall in the ancient Aramaic, the Greeks translated this one correctly. Said the sins of the fathers. Now remember, before you get into that Greek idea of sin and get all that garbage that the churchianity's put into it, sin is just an archery term. All it means, it comes from the archery range. If you fired a target and you missed the bullseye, the scorekeeper yelled sin. All it meant is you're off the mark. Take another shot. It was originally meant to be positive feedback. And so when they said the wages of sin is death, they were telling us exactly how physiology works. That's a physiological fact. I can remember being a kid and being taught, oh, God's going to get you for your sins. You're going to be punished. You're going to die. Man, what a pile of crap. It's got nothing to do with God's going to get you for your sins. If you put an energy that doesn't belong in your physiology, then your physiology is going to start to deteriorate. The wages of sin is death is not a theological threat. It's just, hey, here's how physiology works, folks. You put an energy in that cell that doesn't belong there. How do you put it in? The major way of putting disintegrative energy into a cell is to allow hostility or fear to enter into your structure. Hostility or fear are indicators that your physiology is using corrupt data to build literally the constructs, the perceptual world that you see. And when hostility or fear is active, you don't need to know anything else to know that your mind is in a 100% lie, whatever it's telling you. And the only thing you have to lose if you don't use it is your life. Because energy systems can't die. There's only energy. We are energy. We're not designed to die. We made the process up. We're not designed to suffer. We're not designed to have diseases. Age has nothing to do with what happens with your physiology. However, if over time you do hate and fear and rage and guilt and grief and blame and drama and trauma and gossip and slander and vengeance and condemnation, you play that game, yeah, your physiology is going to deteriorate. It's going to look like it's aging. You recall the research we've quoted many times from the DeCursey Clinic in Cincinnati on aging. This goes back, I don't even know, four or more decades ago that I went to a conference where they presented this. Burned the quote into my brain. Time is not toxic. Time has no effect on human tissue under any conditions. It is the belief in the effect of time by those who subscribe to such a belief that acts as a poison. Time has not changed your physiology one scintilla since your birth, since your conception. Time has done nothing. But the unfolding of hate and rage and guilt and grief kills people. And if you think by pretending that when you're feeling hate, it's not yours, when you're feeling anger, that it's somebody else's, if you've stood over somebody in rage, you made me so mad. You just add another level of deterioration to your own cellular structure. Are you mad again? Then wake up and be responsible for your mad mind. Get rid of the impact, the deterioration that it's causing in your structure, and regain your health. It's the whole core of the message from this man, Yeshua, 2,000 years ago. At one point, when half of his disciples were told what they had to do, they turned away, whining, moaning, complaining, and they left, and they never came back. And their moan was, quote, too hard a saying. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to face everything that's in you and that's ever been unresolved in your bloodline. It's a tough one to escape from the power person dynamics. When you're in a state of upset and you're blasting somebody else, just stop and remember how it felt when your power person blasted you like that. And then start recognizing why that other person is doing what they're doing, because it feels that way to them, most likely too. And so the beauty of it is we come together with matching bags of garbage in order to heal. Some people heal, and some people blame and deteriorate and die. But we're not made for death. So they're my thoughts for this morning, or this afternoon. I guess it's afternoon already. You see, we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up, or anybody in the chat room with a thought for us?
No to both of those. So if someone presses 1, you're first in line. Without waiting, we'd love to hear from you. We have 33 minutes, so we've got plenty of time. And I just checked emails, and there are no questions from emails. Did get a comment from somebody for us to check on the website that the pictures of the Koboris from picture 51 to 100 will not download as high-res or won't open as high-res. So I'll have to get Susan to check on that from her end.
They're not high-res pictures. So
well,
none
apparently
of them are
they got all
high-res
the
pictures.
others to open up, but those would not. So I don't know. Anyway.
Well, the others must have opened up as regular resolution because we don't have any high-res pictures on it. At least that's my understanding.
Yeah. We just had a hand go up.
Awesome. Let's say hello.
Okay, I believe it's Miss Linda, and I don't think it's left over from Dr. Tim's show. 541. Welcome, lady.
Welcome. And you? How are you doing this fine day?
I'm well, young lady. How are you? Did you get my message yesterday?
Yes, I certainly did. I just didn't have a chance to respond to it yet because I figured I was going to call you anyway.
Well, we're here holding the space. You're in our minds and hearts, as is Larry.
Yes, thank you. I shared your message with Larry. We really appreciate it. Jeanie, you may have done that, put that quote in about time before, but would it be possible to put that quote in the notes today, the link to the quote?
Yes, and I actually created a page for it, so that I will put that in there.
Perfect, because I think I'm really ready to write that down as a mind shifter or something.
You ready to use it?
I love it.
All right.
Well, I keep procrastinating, and I keep, and I don't think it is procrastinating. I think I'm being told to wait until exactly this moment when I get the urge to send something to my brothers who are traditional Christians. Not because I want to convince them or convert them or anything else, but because between Dr. Tim's show, where he nailed both of my feet and my paws to the ground, and your
what
yeah,
a gift.
right. I mean, he just, well, Larry's been trying to tell me for 30-some years that I'm too much in my head, but you know, we have different ways of languaging, and intimacy tends to breed contempt and all of that nice stuff that we get to
No,
experience.
intimacy doesn't breed contempt. No. Contempt breeds contempt.
Right, exactly. But I was using the quote of, you know, how the world would say it. And I agree with you, and thank you for putting that in. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Little correction there. Anyway, that contempt that breeds contempt, I couldn't hear his languaging because we language very differently, of course. We're different people, and the meanings of those words are different, so we interpret them differently. But, boy, I really appreciate both of your lessons, because yours, again, amplified from your perspective what Dr. Tim was speaking about, it seemed to me. And so
cool.
I really appreciate that. And continue on, dear heart.
That's the plan. That's where we be heading.
Okay. Be heading there. And abide in that beheading process. Okay. Bless you guys.
You know,
and love
you talk
you.
about...
No, I don't love
yeah.
you. I am expressing my love within myself to you both.
Well, I'll be loving your presence too, young lady.
Okay.
One of the things you mentioned there was, you know, the idea of converting someone, that you didn't want to convert them. My offering is that I think it's very appropriate for a person to offer or to support conversion of others. And conversion, the conversion I'm talking about, is not converting somebody into somebody's church, but rather we all started out with a mind connected to and based in love. The specialty of our world today is to knock that mind out of us and convert us to an hostility and fear-based mind, a blame-based mind, a guilt-based mind. And so I am blatantly out there working to convert every mind, heart, and being on the planet back to a love-based function. Nothing to do with churchianity or churches or anything to join or anything else. It's just to give people the tools to be converted back to the mind they started with, the mind we're designed to work with. And so I, unabashedly offer that as real conversion. And in order for all of the suffering that's going on in the world, whether it's personal, interpersonal, starvation, whatever it is, in order for that to all end, all we need to do is get back to functioning as who we are.
Yes, and convert, obviously, in my mind, has the interpretation of somebody pressing on you to be something you are not.
Yeah, well, this one is about pressing on each person to help them to realize that they're not being who they are, they're being who they are not, and to get back to who they are. So, but anyway, that's the process.
Yeah. Well, so we just keep doing our worksheets to find out whether we are actually in not allowing them to be who they are and have their own process and their own way of returning home. I mean, when do we finish share? When do we go step over the line of sharing to the line of I'm right, you're wrong?
Well, I guess it would have to do with your language and your thoughts. If your thoughts are there's something wrong with you because, then, that would be a good thing to own and probably forgive. But if you come from a space of, I see you, I know who you really are, and I'm here holding a space for it, and I invite you to hold the same space for me, then we get to join rather than having to have anything to do with that other process you're talking about.
And the conversion actually comes from spirit in the heart of the other person who
Absolutely.
either willing or unwilling. It's not about us doing it at all.
Yeah. Well, there's that old saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But you can make him thirsty by demonstrating what it is to live truly as a human being. That's, to me, that's the number one way of doing it. That, you know, when people notice, you mean I don't have to be in misery and pain and suffering and illness, and I don't have to live there? Wow. That's a great demonstration.
It's my life, not my words. It's my my heart energy, not my words and languaging and doctrines and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. That would be my take on it. I'm with you.
So there's the triune being. There's the triune being right there, Rahma in the mind, and then Ruha in the heart, who does the converting and the guiding and the nurturing and all of that. And then here I am as the Christ child going forth to express that life fountain flowing through me.
You got my support.
Okay, but I got to remember what Dr. Tim says. Would you get out of your brain? I'll talk to you later. Love you both.
All right. Blessings. Take care. Definitely to heal, you got to be out of your mind. The secrets are not hidden in the mind. They are hidden by the mind. And when we leave it behind, that's when we get to step into being. And then you restore it. You know, it's meant to be your footstool. It's meant to be used by you. It's a tool. You restore it to its proper place and rock and roll. So, Miss Jeanie, what you got, sweetie?
It is all quiet. Nothing. Nobody.
Okay. Well, there's a fun lesson in the Course in Miracles that I opened recently, and it gives a description to a pretty precise one, and to me it's somewhat humorous, on what a mind that lives without forgiveness looks like. So this is lesson 121. In Course in Miracles, forgiveness is the key to happiness, the unforgiving mind. And so here's what it offers. Here's the answer to your search for peace. Here's the key to meaning in a world that seems to make no sense. Here's the way to safety in apparent dangers that appear to threaten you at every turn and bring uncertainty to all your hopes of ever finding quietness and peace. Here are all questions answered, and here, the end of all uncertainty is ensured at last. The unforgiving mind is full of fear. It offers love no room to be itself, no place where it can spread its wings in peace and soar above the turmoil of the world. The unforgiving mind is sad, without the hope of respite and release from pain. It suffers and abides in misery, peering about in darkness, seeing not, yet certain of the dangers lurking there. The unforgiving mind is torn with doubt, confused about itself and all it sees, afraid and angry, weak and blustering, afraid to go ahead, afraid to stay, afraid to awaken or to go to sleep, afraid of every sound, yet more afraid of stillness, terrified of darkness, yet more terrified at the approach of light. And of course, the reason that can be said with confidence is because no one has ever been bothered by light or darkness or sleep, or the only thing that's ever bothered us is the content of our minds. Can the unforgiving mind perceive but its damnation? What can it behold except proof that all its sins are real? The unforgiving mind sees no mistakes, but only sins. It looks upon a world with sightless eyes and shrieks as it beholds its own projections rising to attack its miserable parody of life. You know, that line may seem to be a conflict. It looks upon a world with sightless eyes. Well, how could you look at what the brain generates, the constructs, the realities the brain generates are reflections of the content of the brain. Those pictures that we see, that we think we see through our eyes, do not come from our eyes, they come from our brain, and they are not pictures of what's outside of us, they're pictures of internal conditions. So that's what the Course here means when it says sightless eyes. And then, not realizing it, what does it do? Its own projections rise to attack it. What it refuses to deal with in itself, what it does its best to convince everybody else it's their fault, is what creates attack upon itself. The unforgiving mind wants to live, yet wishes it were dead. It wants forgiveness, yet sees no hope. It wants escape, yet can conceive of none because it sees the sinful everywhere. The unforgiving mind is in despair. Without the prospect of a future, we can offer anything but more despair. Yet it regards its judgment of the world as irreversible and does not see that it has condemned itself to this despair. If you're recognizing any of this, then be aware that this is the kind of stuff that you're going to have to face as you actually engage in forgiveness. You're going to have to feel those things, you're going to have to deal with those things, and you're going to have to learn the skill of throwing them out of your mind. The unforgiving mind thinks it cannot change, for what it sees, quote unquote, we put that word sees in quotes, bears witness to that its judgment is correct. Does not ask because it thinks it knows. It does not question, certain it is right. Forgiveness is acquired. It is not inherent in the mind, which cannot sin. As sin is an idea you taught yourself, forgiveness must be learned by you as well, but from a teacher other than yourself. The chances of someone reaching outside of the circles of their own projections, which have been reinforced and been going on for generations and generations and generations and generations in one's bloodline and in the culture for centuries and centuries, the chance of that one escaping on its own, slim. So forgiveness must be learned by you as well, but from a teacher other than yourself, who represents the other self in you. Through that teacher, you learn how to forgive the self you think you made. Remember, the word forgive means remove. You remove the self, the lowercase self you think you made, and just let it disappear. Now, when people are identified with that false self, you remember Yeshua 2,000 years ago said, in order for you to live, you've got to die. If you're identifying out of a false fear and hostility-based self, then that self is going to have to go, and it's going to be experienced as a real death when you let it disappear. So then you return your mind to him who is your capital S self, who can never sin, cannot engage in energies that are off the mark. Each unforgiving mind presents you with an opportunity to teach your own mind how to forgive itself, how to remove, literally, its self, its non-being self. Each one awaits release from hell through you and turns to you imploringly for heaven here and now. The unforgiving mind has no hope, but you then become its hope. And as its hope, do you become your own? The unforgiving mind will learn through your forgiveness that it has been saved from hell. In other words, if you know, in our culture, we're all brainwashed to see ourselves and each other in a certain way, and when I can unhook from the self I think is you, and I can then support you unhooking from the self you think is you. And I can only do that as I unhook myself from the self that I thought I was, the self based in hostility or fear. So as you learn this process, and as you teach this process of release, then you'll learn it. I love Richard Bach's statement in his book, Illusions. If you haven't read that book, it's a great book to read. One of the things he says is, we teach best that which we most need to learn. And all your teaching and all your learning will be not of you, but of the teacher who was given you to show you the way to you. In other words, that guide within that Linda was talking about. In Aramaic, Ruka Zakudsha. That feminine elemental force in you that will never violate your free will, but when you ask for support and guidance, will, one, by definition, out of the Aramaic, undo the effects of your errors, and two, teach you the truth. The only restriction on the speed at which that happens is one's own resistance, one's own fight against it, in the insistence that the problem must be outside of it. And there we circle back to, once again, the unforgiving mind. So this lesson goes on and says, today we practice learning to forgive. If you are willing, you can learn today to take the key to happiness and use it on your own behalf. We'll devote 10 minutes in the morning, at night another 10, on learning how to give forgiveness and receive forgiveness too. The unforgiving mind does not believe that giving and receiving are the same. Yet we will try to learn today that they are one through practicing forgiveness toward one whom you think of as an enemy and one you consider a friend. So it's asking you to pick out two different people in your life, one that you consider close, a friend, and someone that you consider on some level an enemy. As you learn to see them both at once, as one, we will extend the lesson to yourself and see that their escape, i.e. their escape from your projections, is your own escape as well from those projections. Begin the longer practice periods by thinking of someone you do not like, who seems to irritate you or cause regret in you if you should meet him. One you actively despise or merely try to overlook. Doesn't matter what form your anger takes. You've probably chosen that person already. That's the one you want to do this work with. Close your eyes and see that person in your mind. Look at them a while. Work to perceive some light in them somewhere. A little gleam which perhaps you've never noticed. To find some little spark of brightness shining through the ugly picture, the whole of him. Look at this picture till you see a light somewhere within. And then allow this light to extend until it covers him or her. And makes the picture beautiful and good. And that glimmer of light might be imagining holding that person as a newborn. Tapping into the truth of who they are which is the equivalent of tapping into the truth of who you are. Now look at this changed perception for a while and turn your mind to one you call a friend. Transfer the light you learned to see around this former enemy to this friend. Perceive him or her now as more than friend to you. For in that light, His holiness shows you your Savior, saved and saving, healed and whole. If we could but stand in the space where we see the truth of ourselves or another human being, everything will be transformed. Then, next set of instructions in this exercise is let Him offer you the light you see in Him, and let the former quote-unquote enemy and friend unite in blessing you with what you gave. So perhaps in looking at that person that you called the cause of your upset, perhaps the only light you could see in them was holding them as a newborn and recognizing who they are. So you've given that gift, and now allow that to be given back to you by these two who are now joined in that light. Now are you one with them, and they with you? Now have you removed that trauma from yourself, forgiven by yourself, trauma removed? Remember throughout the day the role forgiveness brings in bringing happiness to every unforgiving mind, and yours among them. Every hour, tell yourself, forgiveness is the key to happiness. I will awaken from the dream that I am mortal, fallible, full of error, and know that I am the perfect reflection, the son or daughter, the offspring of the Creator. Powerful lesson, powerful look at what a mind can do when it's stuck in unforgiveness. So breathing with everyone. And Miss Jeanie, it looks like we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left, so time for another call. Do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up, or anybody in the chat room with a message for us?
No, it is all quiet. Somebody press 1. We do have 6 minutes.
Let's go for it. If you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Call that number. You'll be listening to the show directly, and then push 1. We'll be having a conversation.
If no hands are going up, maybe use the next few minutes to tell people what's coming up. Of course, Thursday is the book club, and Saturday is the Mind Shifter Still Point Breathing. But then,
right.
Have you heard anything? Is it confirmed on the summer?
I still haven't heard from him yet. No, Mark. So he was actually supposed to call us Sunday, but I hadn't heard from him. So I assume they're still organizing. They've got a group that's coming from all over the world, as far away as New Zealand, to the conference that they're looking at putting on at Heartland. So I guess their communication has been a little ruffled. However, what have we got going on? Of course, every day we've got this radio show. On Thursday at 3:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 in London, England, we'll be doing the Hear My Voice Book Club live. And I'm sure Jeannie's got a link in the notes, or you can go to whyagain, whyagain.org, and look under events, and you'll see a Zoom link to that Zoom call. You're certainly welcome to join us. If you have missed any of the Hear My Voice Book Club meetings, you can go to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and type in Michael Ryce, R-Y-C-E. You'll find all of our videos there. And or you can go to our website, whyagain.org, and you'll see over on the right-hand side the social media links. Just click the YouTube channel and you'll be there. Subscribe to it. If you watch something, we'd appreciate it if you'd hit a like on it. We're looking to grow that YouTube channel. It's not something, we've just put videos out there kind of willy-nilly over the years because we've been so consumed with being on the road and then transitioning here to Bristol. However, what we're working to do now is to hopefully get it to a level of function, a YouTube channel, where YouTube will actually support us, will actually pay for our content. So, and what that takes is people watching the videos and clicking a like. So, there are, I don't know, somewhere around 100 or so videos at this point. And, if there's one in particular that you've watched that you like, please grab it and send a link so somebody else gets to watch, and click a like on it, make a comment on it. And by doing so, you'll be assisting us to getting to the point where we can monetize our YouTube channel, which, with not being on the road, would really help with the cash flow that it takes to keep Heartland going and keep the taxes paid and the maintenance done and the electric bill taken care of and all the neat stuff that goes along with that. If anyone wants to drop over this afternoon, help me shovel soil, that's what I'm going to be doing. We've got another several tons to move. So come on over and grab a shovel. Beyond that, we're looking at the conference that we've had an inquiry about that has not yet confirmed is going to happen sometime in the first week or 10 days of August. So we're going to back up with that and probably do a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again and a 16-day Food Fund Forgiveness and Work program. We can't settle the dates until we get the dates on this other conference set. So, but as soon as we do, we'll be letting you know. And if you're interested, you can drop Jeanie. If you have my phone number, you can call me or text me, and I'll call you back, and or drop a note to Jeanie, Jeanie at whyagain.org, Jeanie at whyagain.org. Drop her a note with your phone number saying that you're interested in participating, and I'll make sure that you are kept posted on the dates and how it all comes together, and arrange for you to come and join us if you're interested in doing that. And so we appreciate your participation and being part of the process, and invite somebody to join us. If there's a particular show that you have enjoyed, then go to our page, whyagain.org. There's a microphone in the middle of the page. Click the microphone. And with that, you can drill down into the specific radio shows. Like, in a few minutes, today's show will be ready. You can just grab a link to it and send it to somebody, or download it to listen to on your computer or your phone or what have you. So lots of ways to listen, and we'd appreciate anything you can do to share it and extend it out there to the world. And or if you're benefiting from this work, if you're in a position and you'd like to support us, that would also be much appreciated. And you can do that by just going to our website, again, whyagain.org, and you'll see a donate button down toward the bottom. Click it. Offer some support. In the meantime, have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Thanks for joining us. Blessings. Bye-bye.